Christmas time. They say it's a wonderful time of year with parties to plan, parties to attend, decorations to put up inside, outside, and now the crazy pastor asks people to come and decorate a church. Too many things to do, too many things going on. Classic television shows to watch. We've got to have our television shows in there. We have meals to fix, tons of food to prepare. Seems like everybody wants something special from us this year. We have all the gifts to buy and enough to raise our FICA score a little bit. The emotional and the psychological preparation that we have to undergo to prepare ourselves to be around those family members. Christmas. Such a wonderful time of year. But is it really? Is it really? Is the chaos of Christmas really any different than the chaos in our life any other time? Is Christmas, the season of Christmas, is it really any different than any other day of the week? You see, inside each of us is this feeling that there is something really special, that there is something really special about Christmas, that this season is special to us. But for many people, the significance of Christmas does not enter our thoughts until we're able to settle down a little bit after Christmas has already happened. After the whirlwind of the holiday season is over, there still seems to be some gifts under the tree. And I'm not talking about the gift for crazy uncle, your crazy uncle who decided not to show up this year. These aren't gifts that you can get on Amazon. They haven't found a way to ship that to you yet in 2 days. But these are gifts that we tend to leave unwrapped under the tree. You see, these gifts are possible only through the birth of a child. But don't be misled by the conditions of the hospital that this child was born in. Don't be misled of the status of this child's parents, or the smell of the animals nearby, or even the stench of this child's diapers. Don't be misled by those things, because you see, this child is unlike any other child ever before. Yet at the same time, this child is exactly like every child. There's something different about this child. The first gift that we're going to look at this week is the gift of peace. Oh, I know what you're thinking. Probably one of the first things that comes to your mind is the song, right? Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. No. That's wrong. Another Christmas song that I'm happy to bring to you and shoot down and say they messed up the lyrics. Because you see, peace doesn't begin with you or I. It doesn't start with us. It starts with a child that was God. But he gave up that God aspect of himself to come as one of us. Emmanuel, God with us. Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6 and 7 says, For to us a child is born, a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the greatness of his government and peace, there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forward. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this. Isaiah prophesied this some 500 years before Jesus' birth. He had a wonderful counselor, Almighty God, everlasting Father, and Prince of Peace. Some of you, when you hear the word peace, you probably one of the first things you might think of is world peace. But you would be falling very short of the peace that he brings. You see, because really, when we look at history, only a little over 8.5% of the time since the beginning of recorded time has the world been entirely at peace. So in a total of 3,548 years, only 304 have been warless. Did he really bring that kind of peace with him? I mean, when we even read this passage from Isaiah, does it sound like a peace that we think of when we think of war, right? It says, of greatness of his government and peace, there will be no end, that he'll reign with justice. The Jewish people actually didn't know that Jesus was the Messiah because they were looking for a powerful king, a powerful ruler that would overthrow the Roman government. And that he would establish peace through his power. But no, the peace that we're talking about is something far greater than simply world peace. It's the Hebrew word shalom. If you've ever heard that word before, majority of the time you've probably heard it around Christmas time, or if you know anyone that's Jewish, because it's a greeting. Shalom, Jewish people will say shalom when they greet you, but also when they leave you. So it's kind of like hi and bye, the same word. But the first meaning of the word means peace. But shalom can also mean prosperity, well-being, the health, the completeness, and safety. So it's more than just world peace, but world peace can be a part of that. However, it's not the main agenda. Jesus says in Matthew 10, verse 34, "Do not suppose that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword." Okay, well, so now we feel like that's backing up what the Jews thought. That he's going to come and he's going to fight his way into power and he's going to rule by the sword. That's not what he was meaning, you see, because Jesus tends to think of peace differently than we think of peace. In another gospel, the Gospel of John, it gets explained a little bit differently. John explains it this way. Jesus says, "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid." You see, Jesus does not give peace in the way that the world gives us peace. The way that the world can give us peace is through not fighting, through times of warlessness. But this is a deeper peace. A peace that is felt to the very depth of your soul. The shalom type of peace is an image of complete reconciliation, physically and emotionally, between two feuding parties. Proverbs 14:30 says, "A heart at peace gives life to the body." A heart at peace gives light to the body. The peace of Jesus is a peace that penetrates to the soul. Jesus is the Prince of Peace because Jesus makes Jews and Gentiles one. two feuding parties, two parties at odds with each other. He brings them together and he breaks down that wall of hostility and he creates peace. Ephesians 2:14-18 tells us, "For he himself is our peace, who has made the two groups one and has destroyed the barrier, the dividing wall of hostility, by setting aside in his flesh the law with its commands and regulations. His purpose was to create in himself one new humanity out of the two, thus making peace, and in one body to reconcile both of them to God through the cross, by which he put to death their hostility. He came and preached peace to you who were far away, and peace to those who could hear. For through him we have both access to the Father by one Spirit." Just as it gives us a picture of Jews and Gentiles being united, the birth of Jesus in his life, in his death, and his resurrection does the same thing for us and God. It takes those weaknesses, it takes that barrier that stands between us and God, which is sin, and it takes away that barrier. And it allows us to have a relationship with our Father that we were originally meant to have. But because of sin, we're separated from that. We're separated from that peace. The New Testament depicts Jesus as achieving the highest form of peace for us through the reconciling of his death on the cross. You see, true peace can only come from Jesus Christ. Peace cannot start with us. It has to start with him. A peace that passes all comprehension is not the quality of life which excludes us from the stresses and strains of human society. It is not a sheltered withdrawal from the wrongs that wreak havoc on our world. Nor is it this cloistered existence in which we are cut off from the calamities and the conflicts in our generation. Peace does not take us out of the chaos. Peace exists within the chaos. Philippians 4:7 says, "The peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your mind in Christ Jesus." As some of you listen to me, you might be a little confused. Because really, to explain peace is almost like trying to explain the Trinity. Three people are one, and one is three, and it kind of gets a little confusing. Trying to explain peace, because it's one of those things that you don't know what it is until you've experienced it. This political season that we somewhat just finished, coming up to the election, one of the things that I tried to reiterate a lot was that God was in control. That no matter what happens through the election, that God was in control. And I don't know about you, but I convinced myself, because he is. And I haven't lost a second of sleep over this election. I wasn't worried about it. Yeah, I watched to see who won, but I went to bed like 40 minutes into them posting, results type of thing. It wasn't that I didn't care, but I knew it was out of my hands. And I knew ultimately that this world doesn't need my vote to save it. It doesn't need any of our votes. What our country needs is a peace that can only be brought by Jesus Christ. And I've really experienced that type of peace of knowing that God's in control. I don't need to worry about something that I can't control. But in our lives, that's not natural for us. Our natural tendency is to worry and to stress. And if you've watched the media at all, it's what the world is doing. It's stressing. It's worrying. Because they don't know what's going to happen next. But when you have a peace of Christ, it doesn't matter what happens next. Because you're not the one in control. He is. He's in control. He knows what's going to happen next. He knows who the next president of the United States is going to be. He knows all the things that we don't need to know. We can have peace. Paul acknowledges that peace is the direct result of a really big word, justification. What is justification? I'm glad you asked. Having been made right with God. Made right with God. In Romans 5:1, it says, since we have been declared righteous by faith, we have peace with God. God justifies us by his righteousness. Not because of anything that we have done, but because of what he has done. And because of what he has done on the cross, we're able to have a peace that is beyond explanation, beyond our comprehension. I think it's interesting that in the New Testament, when we look at the epistles, which are letters that were written to either individuals or to churches in the New Testament, time, ancient East, we always tend to see two words put together, grace and peace. Because when you think about it, they can't be separated. Because the only reason we're able to have peace is because of the grace of Jesus Christ. We can't separate the two. They have to be together. Grace and peace. So what does our life, when it's at odds with God, what does that mean? Well, for one thing, we'll never experience the peace that he meant for us to have. You see, the thing about these gifts that we're going to look at is they're already there. They're already under the tree. But the thing is, they'll stay there. You see, some of us, I had to learn this skill to receive. You see, I like to give gifts, but I tend to not like to receive them. You know, our natural reaction is, no, you don't have to do that. You didn't. But see, what we've done is we've allowed that person, we've not allowed that person to receive the blessing of giving the gift. We've taken that away from them. They're trying to bless us with something, but we don't receive it. And if we don't receive it, they can't receive the blessing. But if we leave the gift under the tree, and we don't take the time to open the gift, it'll just sit there. Every year, every day, it'll sit there. You can put the tree up. You can put all the decorations up. You can get out the next holiday, which is what? Valentine's Day. You can get all the Valentine's Day stuff out, and you can celebrate it a month ahead of time like all the department stores do. You can do all those things, but still in that place where that tree was is that gift. It's still sitting there. Until you open it and receive it, it's just going to sit. You will never experience what is in the gift if you don't open the gift, right? How many kids do you see after Christmas carrying around a box with it still wrapped? Anybody ever see a kid do that? Please tell me if you have. No, in the history of kids and gifts, that has never happened. But that's exactly what we do. We carry the gift around. Look at, it's good wrapping. I don't want to mess that up. The pretty little bow on top, no. Don't want to mess that up. But we'll never experience if we don't open it. We'll never experience that peace unless we invite that peace into our life. I love Aaron's blessing. Aaron, Moses' brother. Most people don't remember Aaron. He gets the shaft because, he did all the work, but Moses stood up in front of everybody. But Aaron gave this blessing in Numbers 6:24. He prays over the Hebrew people and he says, "The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace." You see, we experience peace when he's in our sight. We have to put him in our sight. We have to make sure that he is the focal point of what this season is about. Because I'll be totally honest with you, I'm just as guilty as you when it comes to the whole shopping like crazy. And I love Amazon Prime. I mean, it's to me in 2 days. I love it. I love giving gifts. I like receiving gifts, especially when it has a smile on the side of the box. But if it's not our focal point, if Jesus is not the focus of what Christmas is, we've totally lost the point. The only reason of Christmas is Jesus Christ. It's not about the tree. It's not about the gifts. It's, not about Santa Claus. Kids aren't in here, so I can say it. It's not about all those things. It's not about sitting around the table with the family. Those are all great things. They're not bad in and of themselves, but the second they are put in the place that only Jesus deserves, we've voided the point of Christmas. We've left the gifts under the tree, and we'll never experience the things that he wanted us to fully experience. Jesus said, "I have come that you might have life and have it to the full." You can't have the fullest life that he has for you if the gifts that he brought for you are still under the tree. Is your peace that God has for you still under the tree? Here's the beauty of gifts from Jesus. The kid in you will love this. You don't have to wait till Christmas to open it. It's ready for you now. I pray, and my hope for you is that you will open those gifts, that you will receive the peace that he has for you. Because you see, world peace, though it begins with Jesus, it also starts when you and I open the gift and receive it. Stand with me. Let me give this blessing over you before we sing this last song. May the Lord bless you and keep you. And may the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace.